We're back with even more insane conspiracy theories. Some sounded wild, some were buried for years, and some are stranger than fiction. From shady government scandals to aliens in the desert, from ghosts at sea to secret retreats in the woods, these cases show how truth can be weirder than any rumor. Start with the idea that the government is watching your every move. In a world of phones, webcams, and street cameras, surveillance is built into daily life. Agencies like the NSA, FBI, and CIA have long conducted mass surveillance in the name of security. Remote activation tools known as RATs can access webcams without turning on the indicator light. And in 2013, Edward Snowden leaked documents revealing sweeping data collection from social media and emails to build profiles of citizens. Those leaks also highlighted the potential to access cameras and microphones remotely. It was not just hackers to worry about. It was the government too. Now jump to a scandal that became infamous. In 1972, a security guard named Frank Wills noticed tampered locks at the Watergate complex in Washington, D.C. Police caught 5 burglars inside the Democratic National Committee offices. They were not after cash. They were planting bugs and stealing campaign documents. 4 had CIA backgrounds, and another worked with the committee to re-elect the president. As the web unraveled, it reached President Richard Nixon. He tried to cover it up, but reporters exposed the truth. The fallout crippled his administration. Almost 70 people faced impeachment proceedings, and Nixon resigned in 1974 before Congress could act. Watergate changed how Americans viewed power and trust. There is also the claim that the government poisoned alcohol during Prohibition. The truth is more complex. From 1920 to 1933, regulators pushed to denature industrial alcohol by adding methyl or wood alcohol to make it undrinkable. Criminals then stole that industrial supply and used it to brew black market booze. People who drank it were poisoned. The intent was to stop drinking industrial alcohol, not to kill drinkers, but the result was deadly for many who bought from untrustworthy brewers. Big Tobacco tells another story of denial. In the early 1950s, evidence showed a link between smoking and lung cancer. In 1954, the industry published a frank statement to cigarette smokers to cast doubt on the science. For decades, companies used public relations to muddy the waters. They denied the health risks, questioned the harm of secondhand smoke, claimed nicotine was not addictive, and funded research tailored to their talking points. Profits took priority over public health. Sports had its own conspiracy. In the 1919 World Series, the Chicago White Sox lost to the Cincinnati Reds. Rumors swirled that 8 Sox players threw the series for bribes. Pitchers Eddie Cicotte and lefty Williams, first baseman Chick Gandil, shortstop Swede Risberg, third baseman Buck Weaver, outfielders Shoeless Joe Jackson and Happy Felsch, and infielder Fred McMullen were implicated. 4 admitted to taking money, but their confessions vanished from the record. A 1921 trial ended in acquittal due to lack of evidence. All 8 were banned for life. Then there was Operation Snow White. In the 1970s, covert agents from the Church of Scientology infiltrated U.S. agencies, installed wiretaps, and stole documents to purge negative records and protect tax status. They targeted the IRS, the DIA, embassies, and many more, with activity spanning 136 agencies. In response, the government raided Scientology sites. In 1979, 11 high-ranking members, including Mary Sue Hubbard, received 5-year sentences. L. Ron Hubbard was named an unindicted co-conspirator and lived in hiding. Not all buried secrets were metaphors. The E.T. video game for the Atari 2600 flopped so hard that hundreds of thousands of cartridges were dumped in a New Mexico landfill. Atari officials put the number at around 700,000. In 2014, an excavation recovered about 1,300 cartridges. The worst game ever became a real-life dig site. As for aliens, the conversation shifted in 2023 when NASA addressed UAPs, also called unidentified anomalous phenomena. The term covers objects in the air, the sea, and space that defy easy explanation. NASA said it would research incidents transparently. Its report said there was no reason to conclude aliens were behind the hundreds of investigated cases. That did not confirm extraterrestrials, but it did not rule out unknown technology either. Now to a ghost story at sea that changed history. The Gulf of Tonkin incident began on August 2, 1964, when North Vietnamese torpedo boats clashed with the USS Maddox. 2 days later, the Maddox and the Turner Joy reported another attack in a storm, tracking fast-moving targets that could not be locked. They fired. Aircraft saw nothing. Congress passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, opening the door to direct U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. Later, evidence showed the August 4th attack likely never happened. Radar ghosts and misread signals created phantom targets. North Vietnamese commander Von Nguyen Giap said there was no attack that night. The story presented to Congress became a pretext to escalate war. Tragedy struck again in 1989 aboard the battleship USS Iowa during a live fire exercise. An explosion in Turret 2 killed 47 sailors. The Navy blamed gunner's mate second-class Clayton Hardwick, claiming a personal motive and suggesting a relationship drama. There was no evidence he was responsible, and no evidence for the alleged relationship. Families and the media pushed back. The Gao and Sandia National Laboratories investigated and found that excessive powder bags were rammed too fast, igniting during loading. The Navy reopened the case, ran tests supporting a powder cause, then closed it without accepting fault and offered no apology to Hardwick's family. Next came a manufactured atrocity that shook public opinion. On October 10, 1990, a 15-year-old identified as Nayirah told Congress that Iraqi soldiers took babies out of incubators in Kuwait and left them to die. The story ran on hundreds of stations. President George Bush repeated it to justify supporting Kuwait. It was false. Nayirah was the Kuwaiti ambassador's daughter. A U.S. public relations firm orchestrated the testimony as part of a campaign for the Kuwaiti government. Amnesty International initially backed the story but later withdrew it. The episode became a textbook case of atrocity propaganda. Then there was Operation Northwoods. In 1962, officials proposed a false flag plan in which the CIA would stage attacks on American civilians and military targets, even sink ships and target refugee boats, and then blame Cuba to generate support for war. The Joint Chiefs of Staff approved the idea. President John F. Kennedy rejected it. It almost happened. Finally, the Bohemian Club. Since the late 1800s, powerful men have gathered each July at Bohemian Grove in California. Their retreat features a giant stone owl and secretive ceremonies. Presidents like Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan, along with figures like Henry Kissinger and Clint Eastwood, have been members. Reports describe an effigy ritual to symbolically cast off cares, along with music, theater, and heavy partying. The club is real and very private. The myths about world domination are not proven, but the secrecy keeps the theories alive. When so many once unbelievable stories turn out to have a core of truth, it raises one big question. If these were real, what else is hiding in plain sight?